Turkey's Prime Minister said Tuesday Ankara was suspending all military, industrial and economic ties with Israel and warned additional measures and sanctions would be taken against Jerusalem. Recep Tayyip Erdogan's announcement came a day after Turkey downgraded diplomatic ties with Israel, ordering all senior Israeli diplomats to leave the country by Wednesday. Erdogan also said he was considering visiting Gaza but would make a final decision after he visits Egypt later this month. Defense Ministry Diplomatic Security Bureau head Amos Gilad said Turkey has a lot to lose by taking such steps. Israel's foreign minister said all diplomats above the rank of second secretary would leave Turkey and others would remain in their posts. The latest steps taken by Turkey are in response to Israel's refusal to apologize for the deaths of 9 Turkish activists in a raid on a Gaza flotilla boat last May. Israel expressed regret over the incident and said it would be willing to pay in a joint fund for the victims' families. Former U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates lashed out at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling him an ungrateful ally, and said he was responsible for diplomatically isolating Israel and harming American interests. Gates' comments were revealed in a column published by Bloomberg and were made after Netanyahu met with President Barack Obama last March. Gates felt that while the US had laid out many steps to guarantee Israel's security, access to top-quality weapons, assistance developing missile defense systems and high-level intelligence sharing, the United States received little in return, particularly in regards to the peace process, he said. The column said Gates' opinion was met with little resistance in Washington, and it was clear that he deeply disliked Netanyahu. Gates allegedly told Obama that Netanyahu is not only ungrateful, but is endangering Israel by refusing to grapple with its growing isolation and demographic changes it faces if it keeps control of the West Bank. A dual US-Israeli citizen working as an FBI translator was sentenced to 20 months in prison after he was caught passing on recorded conversations from FBI wiretaps of the Israeli embassy in Washington. The report in the New York Times reveals America's efforts to spy on its allies. The documents that will leak included conversations with US supporters of Israel and at least one member of Congress, the report said. Shammai K. Leibovitz, a lawyer who was working as a Hebrew language translator for the FBI, passed on the sensitive information out of fear that Israel may have been planning an attack on Iran and was aggressive in its influence over the US Congress and public opinion. Leibovitz allegedly felt that an Israeli attack on Iran would be detrimental both to the United States and Israel. The report said the United States regularly listens in on embassies in the US, but spying on an ally as close as Israel is considered more sensitive. Richard Silverstein, a blogger, told the newspaper he decided to go public about the case because he wished to defend Leibovitz's motives. Silverstein said he was quiet about the case for the last 2 years since Leibovitz was charged in the US under the Espionage Act. Silverstein has since deleted the post from his online blog, Tikkun Olam, a liberal blog dedicated to US-Israeli ties. A top Israeli general warned that chances of Israel facing a multi-front war are increasing and that Palestinian terror groups have advanced rockets in their possession. Following the Arab Spring, a winter of radical Islam will arrive, and as a result the possibility for a multi-front war has increased, including the potential use of weapons of mass destruction, head of the Home Front Command Major General Eyal Eisenberg said Monday. He revealed that in the recent round of rocket attacks on southern Israel by Palestinian terror groups, a new kind of weapon was fired at Israel. He refrained from divulging further details of the kind of weapon used, but officials said it was an advanced rocket that carried a large warhead packed with a large quantity of explosives. The general also warned of Iran's continued pursuit of nuclear weapons and said the Sinai Peninsula could be taken over by a radical Islamic entity. He mentioned the growing instability in Jordan that threatened King Abdullah's regime and said Israel must continue to work to ensure the border between the two countries remains a peaceful one. The shekel continued to weaken against the US dollar in interbank trading on Wednesday. The exchange rate with the dollar was up by 0.27% at 3 shekels 64 to the dollar, and the shekel euro rate was up by 0.73% with 5 shekels 15 to the euro. Banking officials said the shekel weakened 7% in the past 6 weeks. On the international market, the dollar and Japanese yen strengthened against the euro for the 6th consecutive business day. Officials said this was mainly due to concerns over the deep debt crisis looming in Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's party lost in local elections in her home state, showing the dissatisfaction the German public has over the country's involvement in the Euro rescue programme. Eitan Admoni, the foreign currency dealing room manager at the Bank of Jerusalem, told Globes the crisis with Turkey could have a negative impact on the shekel.